Hello there. Hello. I am Whitney Coburn, and I am a love coach, helping women whose love lives are disappointing or non existent to cultivate loving relationships, reconnect with their feminine nature, and have more peace and clarity in their lives. Last week on our show, we talked about the 13 deadly dating patterns. And we went through each one of them and explained what they are and a little bit about warning signs and what can happen when you fall into these behavior patterns in your relationships, ultimately leaving you single and alone without a loving, lasting relationship. So, what I thought we would talk about today is the underlying causes of these relationship patterns, how they come to be from our past, what kind of thought patterns we have in the immediate present when we're in these patterns, and some things that we could do to get better. So I'll start with there's two main groups of these different dating patterns, and in one of them, you're pushing people away, you're avoiding, you're hiding out. And in the other group, you're pulling it closer towards you. So I want to start with the pushing away group. So in this group, you have the chase me pattern, which that's where a woman, when she's getting into a relationship, as soon as things start to get serious, she pushes him away and expects that he'll come chase her. You know, it's this subconscious mind game that some women play, and men can do this too, but I am specifically talking to women. But it's this game that we play where we want it, but as soon as we have it, we push it away. And this is very, very typical of the avoidant attachment style. So if you haven't heard of these before, the attachment styles, there's a book called Attached where they describe how when you're in an unhealthy relationship pattern, you tend to fall into these patterns where one person is avoidant and the other person is insecure. And so one person is pushing, the other one's pulling. One person is needing, and the other person is not willing to give. So in these first group of patterns, this is very much falling into the avoidant pattern. Chase me is one of them. Not perfect, I'll pass. So again, it's finding flaws, finding faults in your partner, and then all of a sudden that flaw, as minor as it could be, is the only thing you see. You push that person away. You come to say, I don't need anyone. I could take care of myself. I'm fine. There's also in this group the hermit pattern, where somebody is either too busy or hiding out. Maybe they're shy, maybe they're, well, and nowadays it could be due to COVID, which hopefully soon will not be quite an issue that it has been lately. But in the hermit pattern, you're pushing people away or you're just not allowing them in at all. There's also the just buddies pattern. And again, this is keeping people at a distance. You're not letting people get past the friend zone. You're not putting your go signals out there. You're not flirting, putting out that vibe. Similar to the just buddies is the safety net. So that's where you have a partner, but you're kind of letting them in, but not completely, because you still think, well, this is not Mr. Right. This is just Mr. Right now. This could look like a situationship, a friends with benefits. You know, they're the safety net, they're the backup, they're the back burner, but they're not the real thing, because what really is underlying all of these patterns is a fear. It's a fear of a real love relationship. And this can come from a lot of different causes. One is if you saw in your childhood a relationship that was bad. So usually this is parents that tried to stay together, um, but the relationship wasn't very positive. You might have seen patterns in them. I'll give you an example. I have a friend whose parents are still together. They've been together about 30 years. On the surface, seemingly very happy, raised 3 children. Uh, and people say, "Oh, you're still together. What makes it work?" But knowing what I know, underneath the surface, it's very dysfunctional. They sleep in separate bedrooms. They don't really like each other that much. They're both just very much resigned to the idea that I'm stuck in this relationship. I'm not going to do any better. I'm not going to leave this person. I'm not going to go out and try to find something amazing because this is good enough. And what happens is resentment builds and they make snide comments at each other, or they're just not affectionate in front of each other. And children pick up on this. And so a lot of women that find themselves in these patterns where they're pushing people away, they're avoiding real intimacy. A lot of it is because they've seen models of relationships that they don't want to be. And so consciously or subconsciously, they're afraid of what a relationship really is. And so because in our human nature, in our wiring, we're wired for relationship. We're in constant turmoil because part of us really wants it. We want to be held close. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to share our life with someone. But at the same time, we don't want it. We don't want to see that person. We don't want to hear that person. We don't want to hold that person because we're afraid that our relationship will turn into something bad. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the crumbs pattern. So these are all the patterns where you want it so badly that you sacrifice something in order to have it. And again, these are all damaging patterns. These are not healthy relationship patterns. If none of these relate to you and you have a healthy relationship, that's because you have found the balance. You probably have worked through some of your childhood things. But if you find yourself in relationship after relationship, or currently single, you're probably falling into one of these sides of the spectrum here in these patterns. So with the crumbs pattern, as the name suggests, you're giving your all and this person is giving you crumbs. So in this pattern, you want a relationship, you want love, and most likely this person makes you feel really great most of the time. So when you're together, there's sparks, probably great in bed, maybe takes you out to nice places, but when you really need them, they're not there. Another one in this pattern is the flame out. So the flame out is when things are hot and heavy really fast, really quickly, and then soon it fizzles out. So the opposite, or the key, would be to have a flame that endures, that lasts and burns steadily. But in the flame out, it might be the first few weeks or the first couple months where, oh my God, everything's amazing and this person is amazing and you're together all the time. And then all of a sudden it just goes and it's gone. Another in this group of patterns is I can make you love me. So again, there's this need, this desire, this ability to put your own needs aside and focus on the other person and make them so happy that they will be with you, convince them or prove yourself or do so much for them, cook for them, do whatever they want in bed, go wherever they want, be at their beck and call. Oh, keeping your Saturday open just in case that person calls you. Those are not what happens when you're in a really healthy, good partnership. So the underlying, let's see, was there another one in that pattern? Oh, the fadeaway. The fadeaway is when you're kind of so boring and maybe shy that you just fade away and you don't go out on a lot of dates and you don't get into a lot of relationships. And that one, it can fall into this pattern because a lot of times it's about insecurity and putting on a front. So you act really nice, you say whatever you think they want to hear, but you're just not being yourself. And that's why you come across as boring, because those little eccentricities, those little crazy things about you are actually what make you adorable. And so if you hide those little crazy eccentricities, then you will often come across as boring. And that's when you'll have dates that have no spark and don't lead anywhere. So, what's underlying this group of patterns? A lot of times, this is when someone has a parent that's absent. Maybe the father left, or the mother left, um, or they had a parent who was physically there but not present for them. You know, a lot of times this is the father, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes there are mothers that are also emotionally unavailable. But a lot of times, fathers, especially as we go further back in the timeline, fathers were the provider. Sometimes they would just come home and read the paper, do their own thing, go golf on the weekends, and they weren't very involved in the kids' lives. And the way that that manifests in us as we grow into adults is that we yearn for that. And you know, my past relationship patterns definitely fell into this. You know, I didn't have a close relationship with my father. My parents were divorced. We lived in different states. It was hard to see him and get together with him. And so in my teenage years and early 20s, I found myself really yearning for a relationship, yearning for that love and attention from a man that I wasn't getting. And a lot of women fall into this pattern or this group of patterns. And when you look at the attachment styles and you see the insecure attachment, it's always wondering, always worrying, oh, this person hasn't texted me in 2 days. What's going on? What are they doing? You're nervous, you're obsessing about it. And it's because you want that relationship so bad. You have this hole in you almost that you want to fill with someone. And so that's the two primary groups of these relationship damaging dating patterns. On one side, you're pushing people away, you're avoidant, you're afraid of actually getting into a relationship that's not going to look pretty. On the other side, you don't have the experience of seeing the bad relationship. You see a relationship that never was. And so you want to mend that wound and you want to bring that together and you want to find your partner to attach to you so that you can create that relationship that you always knew in your mind you wanted to see, but in your childhood you didn't see. There are some other relationship patterns of the 13. So one is the jealousy trap and the other is the abuse recycle. So in these ones, it's much more turbulent. You know, it's when someone's in an abusive relationship pattern, a lot of times they were either abused or neglected as a child. You know, and with those types of patterns, I would recommend really seeking out a psychotherapist and really working through your trauma, because there's no way that you can create a healthy relationship until you heal the deep trauma that's happened from within. With these other patterns, depending on the severity, you know, it could be something that you can fix through coaching. It could be something that you want to work with a therapist as well. So yeah, I'd love to hear what kind of questions you guys have if you find yourselves falling into any of these particular patterns. If you have experience with these attachment styles and somebody being avoidant or insecure. And then, oh, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was how do we fix this? So there's a lot of different steps and things, and I run a 4-month coaching program where I go through 5 steps to really understand what's going on and help someone to heal and create the love story of their dreams. With those 5 steps, we start with assessing, where are you now? How has your past gotten you there? 2 is plan. So we set goals and intentions for what you want to get out of the program and calling in the 1. Step 3 and 4 are subtract and add. So first we have to clean house and identify and release the things that are not serving you, your limiting beliefs, your fears. And then we add in the skills that you need to have a healthy relationship. So how to set boundaries, how to speak up for yourself, communication skills, understanding masculine, feminine polarity so that you can speak to a man in a way that resonates with him and gets you what you need. And step 5 is love. And so in that step, we really solidify what self-love is and how to have a relationship that's like a king and a queen relationship where you really respect and love each other, and the relationship is long lasting. So what is the number one fix to any and all of these is communication. The number one reason that people break up is a lack of communication. So sometimes it's hard to talk about these things and bring up what your concerns are, but it's always worth it. It's always worth it. If you have something in your mind that you want to talk about with a partner, but you're afraid of what could happen or what they could say, you should always bring it up because you need to talk about these things. And whether it ends up showing you that you're not right for each other, or whether it ends up resolving something between you, it will always be for the better because it's authentic and it's real and it's honest. And if you're not meant to be together, you should know that. And if you're not saying something that could bring you together closer, you should say that. I find that in every challenge in relationships, just like in life, are opportunities to improve, opportunities to bring each other closer. I'll give you a couple of examples here within the patterns, since that's what we're talking about today. So in the chase me pattern, for example, this is an avoidant style. It's when, as soon as things get real and the relationship gets to the next level, you push that person away. So the underlying subconscious motivation there is that you want them to come back and say, no, I really want you. I really think this relationship is great. Don't worry. I know you've seen bad relationships in the past, but this one is different and we're going to make it and all is well. I love you. So in this pattern, what would cure this is if you can really be honest, and that's first about being honest with yourself. But then when you feel that urge to push someone away, tell them, say, wow, I noticed that I have this urge to push you away, but actually I don't want to push you away. I really like you, and I'm afraid to say that. Imagine how much that would bring someone even closer to you, and you could both actually talk about that. On the other side, you might be in a crumbs relationship and communication being the answer. Let's say you tell this person, I noticed that you only can see me on the weekdays and we don't hang out on weekends. And when you do that, I feel sad because I want a partner that I can hang out with on weekends, and it makes me feel worried about what you're doing when I'm not with you. Very honest, very straight to the point. So that person would respond and either say, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I just figured that I was with my kids every weekend and I'll make more time for you. And that would bring you together and resolve that. Or maybe it brings attention to an underlying issue, like that this person might be seeing someone else, or whatever it is, there's a reason that they're not making time for you and that you're not their priority. So rather than sticking it out just to hang on to the hope of that relationship, it would serve you better to be honest about how you feel. And even if that means that the relationship ends, it's better than dragging on a relationship that makes you feel bad and that you're not working with. So the key, and it's very simplified, it could be a lot more complicated in real life, and I know this and I've seen this, but honest, open communication and telling people how you really feel and talking through things is, the best advice that I can give under any of these different deadly dating patterns. So open to questions from you guys or comments, thoughts.
I'm back. Well, who else is back with me? Uh,
Yeah.
Um, when you said, you get to that point when you start saying snide remarks to each other and sniping, I'm like, oh yeah, that's it's like, and who can throw in the bigger dig by the end of the day. Yeah, that's topic.
Yeah, you've seen that, huh?
It, lived it, I think,
Oh.
about an hour ago, so we're good.
Well, communication can help that too, you know? Honest, open communication about how you feel about someone and how to make it better.
So I have a question. When you deal with these clients, I know you said, they have to dig through their deeper issues. So do you help them do that, or do you send them to like a specialist first, or like, what does it depend on the situation, or how does that work?
I do help them work through that. So what we do is I have several different exercises that will help identify what someone's underlying beliefs are, because beliefs are like a compass that drives all of our thoughts, all of our actions, all of our outcomes, all of our behaviors, and really our life. So if consciously in our head we say, I want to be productive in my work, I want to have a great relationship, I want to whatever, whatever. But if your belief underneath is, I'm not worthy of a great life, I don't deserve love, and all men are cheaters, it's going to be constant. It's going to be a constant battle. And so I do these exercises to help uncover what the beliefs are. And then we follow this 4-step reframing process. So we look at what is the identified limiting belief? What's the payoff of that? Why are you still holding on to that? Is it because you saw it your whole life and you have to feel like, okay, that's right, that's justified, this is explaining what I saw? Or maybe it's allowing you to play small and not try. Whatever it is, there's some little payoff there that we also have to identify. And then we come up with a new belief that you'd rather believe. So if you have this old belief of I'm not good enough, you want to reframe it into I am enough. I am amazing. And so I use embodiment in my practice also. So it's not just a lot of talk, talk, talk. We actually feel these emotions and feel these beliefs in our body, and then feel the new ones so that we get to a place where the new beliefs become our compass and our guiding. So, like I said, with some of these patterns, there's trauma underneath. And so if someone has a significant amount of trauma, then that's when working with a therapist would be recommended. But if it's kind of the normal things that we all deal with growing up, of not having healthy role models for relationships, not really learning communication. I mean, we don't learn this stuff in school. Most of our parents were not adequate teachers of this. So when it comes to just not really knowing, that's most of my clients that I help. And I have helped clients who are in therapy at the same time. I've worked with people who have a history of codependent relationships where they're too needy and the other person's too needy and they're too giving, and I've helped them work through that and create healthy relationships going forward.
Are you finding more needy people than giving people?
There's a balance. There's a balance, but a lot of times actually the neediest are the most giving also. So what happens is, you've all heard of projection. So projection is projecting your own beliefs or emotions or desires or whatever onto someone else. So when someone's really needy, let's say this is a woman whose father was never around and she's just become a people pleaser and she wants a relationship really, really badly. She becomes needy, but she also projects that onto other people. So she assumes that other people are super needy also. And then she overgives and overdoes. And here, let me help you with that. And here, I made you some cookies. And here, I can help you do this or that. You know, so usually the most needy people are also the most giving people. The opposite would be someone with really strong boundaries, who has boundaries for what they give and boundaries for what they receive, and is able to talk in a healthy way about that.
That makes sense. That projecting that, yeah, everybody around me is needy. Like, no, it's
Yeah. I mean, you all know those people that, I don't know, I have one friend and, you know, there's a lot of distance between us now because I have healthy boundaries, but she was this friend that would always be sort of butting in. You know, she'd come over and take over the kitchen and have to cook everything and clean everything. And what else can I do for you? And I'm like, you don't need to do anything for me. But then at the same time, the next weekend, she'd be calling me, hey, can I get a ride? Can I get this? Can I have this? And I'm like, no.
You know, Whitney, I was listening to all those classifications of the different like categories of people, and like in each one, like there was something like that kind of pertained to me. I'm like, man, I'm like a mutt. I'm like not like set in one specific category. I'm like, okay, a little bit of the hermit, a little bit of this one. I'm like, you know, is there, you know, one, I'd like to go back and like, you know, see those. Are those on your website at all listed, or do you have a reading material like a, you know, book or a blog?
So they're
Um,
actually from a book. Let me see if I have it here. So that's a great idea. I could definitely add them to my website, but they primarily come from this book called Love in 90 Days by Diana Kirchner, which is required reading for all my clients. It's a great resource. It's very practical. She really understands. So I got these deadly dating patterns originally from her. One thing I want to mention is, you said all these types, all these people, and these are not types and these are not personality types. No person is a chase me. You know, these are behavioral patterns that we fall into. So any person can have these behaviors at different times. And that's probably why you relate. And you're like, oh, sometimes I feel like a hermit. And sometimes I feel like I'm pushing someone away. And sometimes I feel like I'm gravitating towards someone and leaning in too much. You know, that's very normal. And that's probably healthy, because you're not having one glaring thing that you're doing way too much of that's causing a lot of hurt in your life. You know, that's the difference with this, is if you're doing a little bit of everything. I mean, everyone deserves to be a hermit once in a while. I think women find that once a month you really should be being a hermit. And with quarantining, you know, we're all hermiting, falling into this hermit behavior pattern a lot more. And you might find that with one person, you're pushing them away and avoiding them. And there's some underlying reason there. You know, maybe they're not the right fit and you're still trying to feel it out, and they're coming too strong, too fast. You know, so it's actually normal and could be healthy to have a little bit of all of them. But if you find that 2 or 3 resonate the most and very strongly, that's also really normal. Most people have 1, 2, or 3 of these patterns that they fall into regularly. But I would say that most of the time they're in the different groups. You know, you're not going to be half the time avoidant and half the time insecure. It can happen because you can be dating very different types of partners, and that can cause a different reaction in you. But most of the time you're going to gravitate towards one of those patterns, and it's something that has sort of been growing in you since your childhood. But was there something in particular, Ricky, that was resonating with you?
No, I've just had, the past couple of years, one, COVID hasn't made it any easier on dating. And two, I think, as a result, I'm sure a lot of online dating and websites have probably seen an increase in their, new customers or traffic, however you want to put it. That being said, I've actually had, a couple of bad experiences with the online dating thing. So it has completely put me off. So, and then we live in a world today where we didn't live 20, 30, 40 years ago, where you can, I think I find it a lot more difficult to just go up to somebody and say, hey, I like you. Would you like to go out? And because then you're classified as like a creeper or something like that. And it's, you can't, it's weird. It's like a catch-22. You can't just do that these days. I'm like, man, and it's hard. So, that's where I'm at. I've got there's so many things that have happened to me, dated to me, in the dating life that it's kind of made me feel uncomfortable. And maybe as a result, I lost a little bit of confidence from it, or courage, however you want. All you need is 20 seconds of courage to go do it. And the worst thing that she or he could say is, no, I'm sorry. Okay, but at least you tried. And that's the way I kind of look at it. But I'm just so put off by doing some of that stuff.
Actually, the worst is I'm calling the police now. I've heard, okay, that not a true story from me.
Oh, see, that's why you've been out of the dating scene for so long, Oscar. But I mean, how's the process for you though, Whitney? So let's say I'm listening to this program right now, and I said to myself, you know what, I need help. I need somebody to help me with this process. You finally kind of like cave and go, you know what, who can help me with this? How do they start the process with you?
Yeah, the first step is go to my website, hearthunterslovecoaching.com. And on my website, there's a button you can press to book an hour-long session with me. I offer the first hour-long session for free. It's a discovery call. I'll find out about you. What are your patterns? What is the underlying issue that's happening? What would coaching look like for you? We talk about all of that stuff. And if it looks like this coaching program could be a fit, then awesome. We'll move forward with that. If it's not, then at least with that 1 hour session, you've gotten a little bit more clarity and understanding, and some advice to take with you, because Ricky's right. Nowadays, it is this catch-22 where people are totally turned off by someone approaching them in person. And yet the online dating is, very challenging as well. And I teach, the men have it very hard. And I have to tell my female clients all the time how hard they have it, how much they have to face rejection, how much courage they have to pursue, to ask out. They have it hard, and I give them a lot of credit. And I teach my girls to be open, to be receptive, to not walk around with headphones on, detached from the world around them, but to look at people, to smile, to be engaging, to be open, because you might find someone at the grocery store that catches your eye. That can still happen today. Instead of going, oh, who's this talking to me? Creep, go away. Man, why can't I meet
the mace? Get the mace. Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean,
happens all the time at the grocery store, like all the time. I'm telling you, it's like, oh man, she doesn't want me to hit on her while she's buying like dairy products. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it's a process.
They're not being present usually. So if they're totally checked out, and all of a sudden someone comes out of the blue going, hey, remember dating? They're like, whoa, wait, where'd you come from? What's going on? Get away. So I teach them to be more present so they could be like, oh, dating? Yes, I know dating. How are you?
I mean, I want to ask this question because I've been out of the dating game for like 5 years or so.
Wait, you've been married for 10. What does that mean?
You know what? It's not 10. I've been married for, well, actually, this is going to be 6 years. But dating has evolved over time? Because there was just a time where you ask somebody out to the movies, and then you go to the movies, you sit there, you watch the movie, and then you had this whole procedure to dating, and then You've Got Mail came out. Right, and so everybody's like, "Ooh, now I could meet people in through AOL," and that started the whole online dating thing. And I'm showing my age, right? So I'm going to just keep going because I don't want anybody to catch up with how old I am. But still, you see that progression with human connection, and now it's what COVID hit last year, March. Everybody remembers that. And so now you're even more distant. How do you bridge that connection gap?
So that's a lot of things. But first, yes, online dating has changed things for sure. And online dating right now is bigger than ever. The numbers are bigger. There's more people online. It's one of the only ways, it's a double-edged sword because it could be really bad and it could be really great. My background before I became a matchmaker and before I became a love coach, I worked in recruiting. And in recruiting, you post a job, you get about 600 applicants. You have to filter through because most of them don't meet the qualifications, and you just have to be able to look at the profile, have a quick conversation with the person and say, nope, not a fit, not a fit, not a fit. You maybe, not a fit, not a fit, not a fit, you maybe. And that's how we have to look at the online dating. You can't just go online and talk to the first 4 people that you connect with and expect that one of those 4 is going to work out. You have to know how to filter people out. You have to know what you're looking for. You have to know how to be authentic and communicate. There's a lot of different skills that come into play when you're online dating to make it work for you. Because the truth is, if you're a healthy, amazing, evolved person and you're on a dating site, what makes you think there aren't other healthy, evolved, amazing people on the same dating site? They're out there, but it might be like finding a needle in a haystack. So you have to be willing to do that work. And for my clients, I do some of that work for them, and I help teach them how to do that work so that they don't waste their time pursuing people that are, not worth it or never going to be a fit. It's about creating a funnel, cast a wide net, narrow it, narrow it, narrow it. And then if you're dating a couple of people in the beginning at the same time, the best ones will rise to the surface.
Right.
You set them up for success, they'll impress you, and you'll figure out who's worth it and who's the right fit.
Just like trying on a pair of shoes.
It's a lot like shopping. It's like, oh, this dress is beautiful, but then you try it on and you're like, oh no, that's not
that color is just not for me.
Except for Ricky, he ends up being creepy.
Well, I really appreciate you taking this time. Your programs are always exciting and I always learn something. Please go ahead and visit her website. You will gain more information there, as well as how you can reach out to her and retain her services. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We have at 1:00, we have Oscar coming up with ID Shield, and he's going to talk about the identity theft and how you can avoid your identity being stolen.
Or can you?
Or can you avoid that? Well, if you're watching this program, I just want you to know you are already on the internet. So chances are you want to watch that program to see how you can protect yourself from identity theft. So stay tuned for that at 1. Whitney, thank you again. And our next program will be next month, and you will definitely see her again, same time. Take care, everyone, and see you soon. See you at 1:00. Bye-bye.
Thank you.